Hey guys, Jason here with a word to the wise. I got a couple interesting things I want to point out, and it all ties into the rebellion that is, in my mind, kind of being built up in an obvious nature by this whole left-right situation. You know, the extreme leftists, and they're in control, and how the liberal rights, and it's just this whole siding thing, which we're not supposed to be choosing sides, because you're supposed to be one, and they want you to choose side. And the whole thing with the left is, if you just watch the news, you watch the little meme clips that everybody seems to, very popular channels that are just popping up left, right, and center, and they're all just got these great clips of just babblings, or just some sort of wickedness, or seeing Jacinda, the PM from New Zealand, coming out of the BlackRock. I was like, oh great, yeah, I'm sure she's not got some sort of a dealing with those guys, the largest investment company, known in the world right now, and they got pretty much everybody's money. But it's like a mockery. They're nobody in their right mind would be talking like this, doing this, unless they have to be coached, pushed, coerced. They probably got some dirt on these people, and they're being kind of go out in front of the cameras and do these things. And then, looking at our current head of state, going on Jimmy Kimmel and just babbling away. It's just, I only saw maybe a 30-second clip, and it's just, I don't even have to, because I'm sure anybody that would let him go out in front of the camera, they're just wanting him to do or say, and just kind of provoke everybody into kind of like this madness, like what are these people doing? How are they doing this? Who thinks like this? Why would they be doing this? They're corrupt. They're this, they're that. It's so obvious, over the top, obvious on obvious on obvious on obvious on obvious. But what happens when it goes too far, and it starts affecting us more and more here at home? And what if there is some sort of a food shortage thing that happens, and then everybody just starts freaking out, just saying enough is enough? Because that's a term they're throwing around a lot now, with a lot of those situations that are happening at schools, grocery stores, churches now, more and more. So, and it goes into a lot of other things, into politics, into everything. But interesting, when you look at Daniel chapter 8, and it talks about the goat and the ram, and the voice comes to Gabriel. We can only imagine it's probably Jesus saying this, explain the vision, to him. And when they're explaining it, one thing I just want to point out is the ram which you have saw, the two horns are the kings of Media and Persia, two kings. Then the ram gets trampled by the goat, who is the one of Grecia. So, two kings, two major people in maybe faraway lands. Maybe they're being controlled by someone else. How these things are happening, I don't know. Media almost looks a lot like Afghanistan. And then if we're looking at, say, Iran, that's kind of on the Persia. This Bible has old maps from different time periods, but it's on the other side of the Persian Sea. I believe is what it is. Let me look at another one here real quick, because I know there's a couple. Yeah, the Persian Gulf. Then you have Iran, and then Media is right above it. And I don't know if that's Afghanistan or part of Samaria, Turkey, one of those, but it's all in that kind of an area. But let me just go down to verse 23. and I'll show you kind of where these rebellions. We'll go to 22, then 23, because it's the verbiage that's used. And Daniel, they were carried off by Babylon. So the prophecies that the prophets Jeremiah and Isaiah and Ezekiel had prophesied so much, come to be. So 22. Now that being broken, let me pick this up. Now that being broken, where four stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand out of the nation, but not in his power. And in the latter time of their kingdoms, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. So when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance will stand up. Now that sounds very much like 2 Thessalonians. So let me just jump into that real quick, and I'll show you what I mean. Let no man deceive you by any means, for the day shall not come except there be a falling away first, and the man of sin being revealed, the son of perdition. So, a falling away. So now, with that in mind, let's go back into Daniel chapter 9. And we'll read. So, just a little preface here at the top, that he would accomplish the 70 years in the desolation of Jerusalem. I set my face unto the Lord, to seek by prayer and supplication with fasting, sackcloth, and ashes. And I prayed unto the Lord my God, and made my confession, and said, O Lord, the great dreadful God, keeping the covenant and the mercy to them that love him, keep them that keep his commandments. We have sinned, we have committed iniquity, we have done wickedly, we have rebelled, even by departing from thy precepts and thy judgments. Neither did we hearken unto thy servants the prophets, which spake in thy name to our kings, our princes, our fathers, and to all the people of the land. So, they got carried off by who? Babylon. What does it say in Revelations? It says, Mystery Babylon. So here is that type and shadow of how a rebellion comes to a full, and Babylon, type and shadow, comes back in to a full. So I've spoken on Amos being very kind of important in that spiritual lens. So what kind of came to my mind was, in the beginning of Amos, there's a lot of talk of, for the transgressions, not of 3, but of 4 transgressions, I will do these things unto thee, because you have done this in Moab, bop, 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 bop. You have done this in Jerusalem, bop, 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 bop. You have done this in Judah, bop, 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 bop. So, what is I always sat there like, not for 3, but of 4. And I'm like, what does that mean? And I remember when I was doing just some studies and I was listening, Exodus chapter 20 speaks about the 10 commandments. And I heard this and it clicked, and I said, wow, that is what they're talking about. So, chapter 20, verse 4 and 5 and 6. I'll just read real quickly here. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images, any likeness of any things in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord, thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquities of the father upon the children, unto the 3rd and the 4th generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me, and keep my commandments. So, when you go into, I'll just show you real quickly here in Amos. Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Damascus, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof. And it says, I will send fire, I will devour the palaces, and it goes on, and then it goes into the next one. For 3 transgressions of Gaza, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof. and carried away the captivity, the whole captivity, to deliver them to Edom. Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Tyrus, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they delivered up on the captivity unto Edom. For 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment of them. And what does it go on to Ammon? Then it goes into chapter 2. Transgressions of Moab, the transgressions of Judah, the transgressions of Israel. And it lays out all of these transgressions. So here again, why does Mystery Babylon come along? Because they transgressed. They did not listen to or hearken to the words of the Lord, the prophets. Jesus came and he told them also, love thy neighbor. If thy enemy slap you in the face, turn to him the other cheek. Kind of paraphrasing. So when you see that also, let no man deceive you by any means. And what are they just pouring out through social media, through the media? Now everything's kind of working in the same, what used to be tinfoil hatters. Now it's like tinfoil hats are the smarter one. Look, they've been talking about this for years and years, and now look, here all this stuff is happening. It's all coming true. All these people that were silenced, trying to put the warnings out. And I look at the gray state, and I always sit there and wonder, like, why are the two sides at each other? Is it some sort of a two-state kind of a divide happened? Or is it some sort of the rights and the lefts? And we look at what's happening with the Second Amendment, I guess would be the best way to say that. We made this kind of a good boundary, so that way it just kind of makes it a little bit harder. But what has happened in the ever since this thing has happened? They're talking about, they really put a bad apple on guns, right now, because of all the things that have happened in the past few years, just over and over and over and over and over and over and over. So I can only imagine it can get worse, but at the same time, we have war happening just across the ocean with a very powerful, the bear over there, very powerful. They have all those supersonic kind of means of all these different devices they have. And now we're kind of poking at China. It's like at the same time, that was the one reason why I think Japan never came over here after Pearl Harbor and kept, escalating and fighting us, is because they were told by one of their head generals, behind every blade of grass over there in America, you're going to find, a gun. And it's one reason why nobody really would be successful coming against us. Kind of like a Red Dawn scenario, but if they make us destroy each other from the inside, that's why, blackouts and things like that would be way worse, because then we would all turn on each other, most likely. And that's a horrible, horrible thing to think about. But here again, those who love thy God and follow his commandments, I think is going to be the only key thing, no matter how dark, how hungry, how bad things ever get over here. And I'm sure that, we're seeing this monkey business is going to most likely kick off. And then imagine, as we're going towards the winter season, when you got the bugs kicking up around that time, that you have 2 pandemics going on at the same time. Never has the world ever seen anything like this. And it's interesting because with the monkey business, it's the one thing that everybody always says, we'll look back when, 100 years ago when that thing was all happening and they came up with the dose for that, and look how it saved and changed the world. That's why everybody needs to just be on board and do what's better for everybody. And that is probably what's going to be regurgitated and come right back up into, this whole business. So it's like at the same time, do you just go to, your local pharmacy and then just say, oh, well, I want the 1-2 year problem dose, but now I also want to get the monkey business dose. Oh, you don't have that? Okay, well then the small dose that you've had from 100 years ago, that seems to be the only thing that anybody's talking about. That's going to be the best thing, blah, 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 blah. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to say too much more on that, but it's just interesting. I saw Theology Ed pulled out a pretty good video, and he was talking about the X-Files, and I remember that series when it came back. I loved the X-Files back in the day when I was younger. I watched it all the way up. I watched the very last episode, and then they brought in that 6-part series. I thought that was amazing, and it does seem to ring a lot of truth, and from that time, or in these days, I should say. I'll just leave it at that. Just a word to the wise guys. Just remember, when you just keep that in the mind, why would somebody talk the way they do on these, these platforms? Watching what's happening up in Canada with Trudeau, it's like, it's an obvious, and of course the guy's got to be, the people just have to sit and look at him like, we are done with listening to you, believing in you. You've done nothing but wrong us and wrong the people over and over and over and over. And same thing kind of in our country with our loudmouth parliaments and Congress and all that stuff. They're just full of all sorts of ridiculous blah, blah, blahs. And we see how well they're not running the country, how everything is falling apart, and then they sit there and they talk like they have some sort of they're trying to do something. It's like they're not doing anything. How can you sit here and say, well, look, food's going to run out in 3 months, so we're just going to sit back and, sand's running out, and you'll just know when it happens, and sorry, we'll figure something out, I'm sure, by then. It's like, oh, you need to get out and start prepping people because you can see what's coming down the pipe. It's like, instead of bringing in some sort of like a National Guard or doing some sort of crazy farming, it's farm season. Get out there and just take over the farmlands in a way, not take over, but help the farmers. Don't take from them and, do whatever. Help these people do what is going to be beneficial for the country. But instead, what are they doing? Same thing with gas. We have pipelines, we have oil fields up in Alaska, we have oil fields up, Texas, and left, right, center, everywhere. And yet we're talking about we just can't get enough fuel from Russia. It's like, and now you're seeing the billionaire oil tycoons in this country saying, why aren't we doing more to do this and that and the other thing? It's like, we are America. If we put our minds to it, we can do anything. And yet at the same time, we're being told not to do anything. There's a reason for that. Collapse, 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 collapse. And then what's going to happen when people just say, enough is enough? So just a word to the wise guys. God bless. Thought this would just kind of be an interesting thing to hear. I really want to do a deep dive into Jeremiah 51 and just kind of see in that spiritual lens a lot of things that I've spoken of and see what's in that, because it's been a long time since I've gone through that, and I think today's the day. So just a word to the wise. God bless. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Hopefully the weather sticks around now. It seems pretty warm today. It's probably going to get pretty warm during this week. So God bless. Until next time.